4, 3, 2.
Welcome to Sustainable Success. I hope everyone is having a great week. We are just right around Memorial Day weekend. It's right here, right in front of us. Hope everyone's having a great week. And I hope you're going to take some time to enjoy time with your family and loved ones. You know, even with COVID last year, we went through so much and still dealing with it on some level. It shouldn't be able to stop us from doing certain things that will kind of allow us to recharge our batteries for this weekend. So when we come back, we're going to be ready to bring in June with a bang to do all these great things that we do the sustainable success way. You found us here on the Voice America Influencers channel. We also encourage any new listeners and our current listeners to also check us out at our Facebook group, and that is Sustainable Success 2017, Sustainable Success 2017. There you'll listen to many of our great guests that we've had on over the years, sharing their words of wisdom and insights to help not only scale your business to the next level, but also your personal lives as well. So today's show is being brought to you today by Alumni Direct. This is a social media community platform that brings together people through their universities that they went to, alma maters. This could be also fraternities, sororities, as well as any businesses that are now defunct, where you can get together with people that you haven't connected with in a long time, or perhaps meet new people that you haven't met. And this is a great way to not only exchange ideas and share experiences, but perhaps might be your next business partner, may land you your next new job opportunity. Not to mention the platform features a wide variety of different affinity programs that are only available to Alumni Direct members. So feel free to check them out at myalumnidirect.com. That's myalumnidirect.com. We have a great show today. We are going to be talking about pivot to transform a bold future. This is around leadership. And it's something really close to me. As everyone knows, I love leadership and I love to be involved in it. Leadership is an example. It's not a title in itself, but it's a way of life. How do we lead ourselves is how we be the example for others to do the same. Well, we have an expert is that she is going to share a lot of valuable insight. And before I bring her on, I'm going to give a little background about her. So Marcia Daszko she is a leadership transformation thought leader and a business strategist. As the CEO of her company, Marcia Daszko and Associates, she founded her consulting and speaking company 25 years ago. She is a provocative contrarian and a catalyst for pivoting leadership thinking and innovation. She was mentored by Dr. W. Edward Deming, who helped Japan become a global competitor after World War II, and works with boards and executive teams to accelerate their vision and results never before imagined. She co-founded several Deming-based nonprofits that spanned over 20 years. She's also a dynamic, energizing global speaker and facilitator at conferences and organizations. Her clients include numerous Fortune 100 corporations to private companies, healthcare, education, government agencies, and the U.S. Navy. Not to mention, she is a best-selling author of the book Pivot, Disrupt, Transform, and co-author of the book Turning Ideas into Impact. I could keep going on and on and on, and I'm sure we're going to learn along the way a little bit more about her. And without further ado, we welcome Marcia Daszko to the show. Marcia, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much. That was like a lengthy bio. It's true, but it sounded like, man, she must be 100 years old.
Oh, not at all. We want to make sure we have our guests on that we want to give them everything. There was still more to go over, but I couldn't go through everything. But I wanted to at least point out the highlights of why you are who you are and all the value that you've brought to not only individuals and other leaders, but companies and so on. And your experience is so valuable. We're honored to have you here today sharing with us. So now when we talk about pivoting, pivot is that, a word that sometimes people may hear what that word is, like pivot. Does that mean that, hey, something didn't work out, so I have to pivot to something that will? And then when you tie that into leadership, I'd like to see if you could share with the readers or listeners, I keep saying readers, listeners, as to how, what pivot leadership is all about. And when we talk about a bold future, transform, we are we are in the process that we can create this bold future, especially after what we've been going through with all this uncertainty. This is a golden opportunity to pivot and to create a bold future. But if you could share your valuable wisdom and insight on pivot leadership, it would be great for the listeners.
So pivotal leadership means that leaders have an opportunity to go, like, they've got a fork in the road, and they can either go down one fork where they get stuck and flounder and fail because they don't want change. They want things to be the status quo, but it's not life. Things don't stay the same. And pivotal leaders are constantly, not just during a crisis, not during a pandemic, but they're always scanning the environment and doing a sense and respond type approach to what do we need to accomplish? What vision might we have? How do we better serve customers? We don't best serve them by asking them what they want, because they don't know. It's up to great leadership to innovate, to create products and services that are not out there today and create that future. So pivotal leaders are the ones who can envision what's coming, what they want to create to come, as well as when there is a crisis, they don't put their head in the sand. They instead are the people that say, okay, there's a need, and I will pull together a team and we will address that need. We will find solutions. We will find the opportunities. And I know a lot of companies did just that a year ago. And like we saw GM and Ford pivot, and they went in a different direction. They, instead of making all cars, they started making ventilators. We saw breweries pivot, and instead of making beer, they were making hand sanitizer. We saw Louis Vuitton, instead of making luxury goods, pivot and make the PPE materials that the hospital needed. So pivots mean that leaders identify a need or an opportunity, and they put together a team and create so many ideas and they make it happen. So they rapidly pivot and accelerate to accomplish and serve.
That is such a great thing that you just said about, and using those companies, and these are companies that are well known. They're not like, who never heard of that company. And wow, I didn't realize they went from, a luxury brand that were making PPE, like, wow, but it goes to show that pivot leadership is about adapting to change, not resisting change.
Exactly.
And so many people and certain companies resist change because change is scary. It's the unknown. It's that uncertainty. We've had all this uncertainty we've been dealing with COVID. But can you share some insights of why sometimes certain people and companies can pivot to adapt and others can't? We understand it's a fear, but why, what causes that? What is behind that? Like certain, organizations and people fail to, they react too late in certain situations.
Yes, there are multiple reasons, and you've hit one of them when you mentioned fear. Some people have a fear of, I once asked an audience of 200 executives, how many fears do you think you have in your organization? And I had them just take a moment with their partner and come up with those fears. And they said they thought they had 5 or 6 fears in their organization. And I said, excuse me, but you actually have more than 100. And it's your job to discover them, bring them out on the table, talk about them, because the only way that you're going to reduce fear is to communicate and build trust. And that is the role of a leader, is to create the environment where people are self-motivated. They don't try to motivate them. Instead, they create the environment where people are self-motivated and they can contribute. They contribute when they care about something, and they contribute when they can learn, work, improve, and innovate together. Great leaders, pivotal leaders, and those that are the most successful are also the people who welcome and inspire more and more and more and more creativity. I think through the pandemic, the people who were the most creative are the people who were able to face the challenges, bring their teams together, create their plans for, survival and for thriving. I mean, some organizations are just booming through this time. I mean, Zoom, for example, they had to. There was a need and they had to step up to it, and many did. But some people, if they're stuck, some people have that fear, then they don't want to be changed. They don't want to change, and the fear is too deep.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's too deep. And so what would be some of the things that, from your experience, that those companies that are in that, haven't been able to pivot or change and kind of still stuck in this fear and this, unwillingness to change, what would you recommend that are some things that they can do to kind of start shifting, where they can start to learn to trust this process, where to adapt because this could happen at any moment in time?
Yes.
Regardless, I mean, outside of their control, a lot of times this is outside their control.
Exactly. Yes. Stepping up to leadership it's hard. It's not easy being a leader. It's not easy to transform. And in fact, I was talking to a CEO client this morning, and we were talking about, transformation, and I'm just beginning with them I've just worked with them for a month or so. And he said, Marcia, you make it sound so easy, but it's not. I mean, I see the vision, I see the future, because I've been down this path many, many times, but of course, to his leadership team, this is all new. So the people who can transform, who can face the fear and do it anyway, and move toward trust and caring and learning and working together. That's one of the most fundamental things. Those people that can do it have two characteristics. One, a deep commitment to continual learning, and courage. So they don't have to have all the answers. The mindset that, all the leaders have to have the knowledge or something at the top. No, they don't have to have all of the answers. They need to create the environment so that all of their people develop their natural leadership and can contribute to the aim of the organization. That's involved with creating a strategic compass.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, because I mean, that's the thing. You're not going to have all the answers. You're not going to be able to control everything. You can only control what you can. And that's where I think where people get this fear and this, where they feel paralyzed, is because they get caught up in what they can't control and what they don't know. So those puzzle pieces come in time to connect the puzzle, to complete the puzzle or the results that they seek. So it's trusting that process. Wow, yes. That's definitely so true. That is great. We have about three minutes to the break. Marcia, what would be some other things that you could share for, like, some of the listeners that are listening, some of them that work in companies, some that run their own businesses, that may be hearing this and going, wow, that's me right now. And I keep playing it safe, but I know that if I don't pivot somewhere here soon, that could be the difference of somebody getting ahead of me, or worst case, I could be out of business. So what would be some more insights that you could share to help them help themselves?
Yes. I would suggest, there's so many ideas. My mind is bombarding. So I would say start with pulling some people together in different teams of people together, and make sure everyone is clear about the direction that you're going. So what are you trying to accomplish together? Don't go any further until you get clear on that. And who are you serving? Those two fundamental things. Then together, people can figure out how to do it. But be very clear on what you're trying to accomplish and who you're serving. And then start, if there's a lot of fear in the organization, talk about it. Talk about it a lot, because the more you talk about it, and the more and more people communicate together, the fear reduces and the trust builds, because you're communicating, you're respecting each other, you're learning from each other. There's a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I'm always full of resources when it comes to books, because I have 1,000 books on my bookshelf. That is one of them. There's another leadership book by the second edition by the Arbinger Institute. I can't remember the whole title, but it's quite good. Or Leadership on the Line, Leadership Without Easy Answers. Those are, great books.
Yeah.
Some really fundamental books, but
that's a great insight. Well, we got more to come from you. This is only the tip of the iceberg that Marcia is going to be sharing everyone about pivotal leadership. And here we're talking about pivot to transform a bold future. And what that bold future means, well, it's up to you. That's up to you personally and in your business. So we're going to be going to break here, but what we'd like to, before we go to break, to kind of think about where you're at right now. Where are you at in your life? Where are you at in your business? And think about, is this a time to pivot, to adapt, to say that change is going to happen with or without you? And are you going to now be, left in the dust? Are you going to be part of the change and find a way to make it work within your control? Because that's all we can do, letting go of everything else that Marcia shared about. So don't go away. Again, and if you just joined us, you can listen to this show in its entirety here later today, as this show will be highly recommended that you go back and listen, take notes. This could be the difference in where you are and where you want to be in your business. And we'll be right back after the break.
All right, great job. All clear.
All right, beautiful. All right, so that would be the first segment. Now, what would be happening right after that? If we were live, they'll be running the commercials and stuff like that. So we'll have commercials. So when you hear the live show next Thursday, or the show that we're recording, you'll see it go right into a commercial, and then we'll come right back in.
Okay.
All right. So for the second segment, Marcia, is there any particular area you want to talk on that you want me to segue into?
We could probably touch on the stop, start, transform parts of the book, because what happens is people get stuck and go down a slippery slope because they've taken on so many management fads and best practices, and that's where they get stuck. And that's why 90% of startup companies fail. That's why 70 to 80% of merger and acquisitions fail. It's why more than 60% of Fortune 500 companies have failed.
Okay. All right. So it's like, so what would be that key? It's that slippery slope. So how do I segue into that again? You want me to do?
So I can say, so what is it that leaders are doing that they need to stop? And that'll.
Okay. What do leaders need to do to stop? Got it.
Yeah, because that'll take me right into it.
Beautiful. All right. We can do it. If you're ready, I'm ready, and we can start the second segment. Awesome. All right, man, we're ready to go.
All right, catch in here. 17 minutes starting in 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back to Sustainable Success. If you're just joining us here, we are here with Marcia Daszko. We're talking about pivot to transform your a bold future. This is all about pivotal leadership. So whether if you are a leader in your organization, regardless of title, or you run your own company, or even a solopreneur, you have to lead your business and also be a leader for your clients direct. This is a show for you. So Marcia, we had left off, you were talking about some really key points of, the types of companies that, are able to adapt and the ones that are not, but what can be done to adapt. So what are some of the things that you can share that, that leaders have to stop doing, that when they do, this could be all the difference in making dramatic changes in their organizations and businesses?
Yes, so many times, like a company will start up, and then once they get 10 or 20 employees, the management team says, oh, we need HR. So HR comes in and they bring all of their quote unquote best practices and so forth. And what happens is over time, there's building and building and building and building of best practices from the outside that are not best practices, and management fads. And before you know it, the organization has grown, but is filled with complexity, with waste, with a lack of productivity, with dysfunctional relationships. And what leaders need to do is really fight to keep the complexity and the management fads and the best practices out of their organizations. So for example, performance appraisals, where they rate and rank employees. Whenever I'm talking to a leadership team, I ask them, okay, what are your values? And they oftentimes, almost any of them, say teamwork and cooperation and collaboration. And then I ask, do you have performance appraisals? Do you rate and rank your employees? And they say, oh, yes, of course. And we have performance management, and we have 360s and all of these tools. And I ask them, why do you say that you have these values, but then you put practices in place that create internal competition? And they said, oh my gosh, we've never thought about that. And that's how it continues. I just ask and ask and ask questions. I say, where do you want to go? And then I ask questions and help them discover all of the barriers that are in their way of accomplishing what they want to accomplish. They want to have healthy, diverse workplaces. And yet, with so many management fads, more workplaces are toxic or dysfunctional, or there are silos, there are org charts that create a structure that don't work, because what great leaders do is they create a system, and it's not about the parts of the system, it's about all of the parts in the system. It's about how they interact. It's like a car. You don't take the best parts of the best cars and then try to put them together and create a car. That doesn't work. It's all about how do the parts interact in order for you to drive it.
Yes.
So systems thinking is fundamental, and statistical thinking for better decision-making is fundamental. And I've got a report based on my experience that most executives, leaders, do not have the knowledge they need to have to lead their organizations.
Wow. So what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when you were talking about about using the engine, like how these things interact with one another. Is that interdependency, being interdependent? Yes. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or independent. I actually heard a different term today. Somebody said independent together. So, so
well,
when I heard it, I said, wait a minute, it makes sense. Yeah. Because you got to own your own role and you got to own your own duty, be responsible. That's independent, but come together there. I said, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, so it's funny. I heard that today and you're talking about it. I'm going, my God,
Yes.
this is coincidental here. You know, it's meant to be.
You've hit on another, it's just so phenomenally important. The difference between responsibility and accountability.
Yeah.
Many people want to hold individuals accountable in the organization. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Only the leaders can be held accountable because they create the systems that the people work in.
Yes.
The individuals can contribute their ideas and their work and resources, so forth, but they can't change the system. They can have conversations with the leaders to make changes, and then they also say, we're looking at the individuals and measuring the individuals. And if we don't like the results, well, then maybe they don't get their raise, or they got a smaller raise than if the system had delivered better results. But they need to be measuring the system's results, not the individual's results.
Yes. Yes. That's so true. That's so true. And the thing is, you know, if somebody's going to be accountable, like, you know, let's say a subordinate, somebody that works, they're more likely going to be accountable. They have to be accountable to themselves. And maybe perhaps that means that the leader, in this case, to create more, you know, more leaders in their units by owning their roles and duties, is being the example of that himself or herself, being that example so that others can do. So it's not that you have to keep them accountable. It's that they're keeping themselves accountable, and they're just keeping accountable, like you said, as a group. What are the results that are happening as a result of people interdependently coming together like that, or independent coming together in that way.
Yes.
So, oh, that's powerful. Yeah, I love that. I love that. And the thing is that in organizations, you know, you see a lot of codependency, like the opposite of that. People are like dependent upon, they're always trying to control what they can't control. They're trying to control someone's perception to what they said, their attitude, their behavior. They're trying to control other things that would play into the results that are beyond their control. And they don't focus on what they can. And then they realize, why are they overwhelmed? Why do they feel frustrated, stressed, angry? Why that when expectations go unfulfilled, which they will, they just get caught up in that same cycle over and over again. So what you were saying here is if we can change that in just the way we think and how we do things, that can kind of shift away from that, the way companies have been doing it, or how people are used to doing things and getting the same results.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because if they have a common aim, a common purpose, and they are thinking about who they want to serve, then they communicate together, and they don't, things are not individualized. So how they learn together, support each other, do self-care, are mentally, emotionally secure and happy. They're vulnerable. They have to have a safe environment where they can speak up, and they can share and share the mistakes, share things that are not going well, because it's not then that someone's going to criticize and blame and judge, but instead they're going to work together to support and develop each other to create a bigger, more healthy organization. So it's all about relationships. And I think more and more discussion people are having is about a caring leadership, caring organizations, especially after the pandemic. People are already talking about the re-entry into society and back into the workforce and back to the social events and so forth. It's like, it's I've noticed it myself. If I go someplace for the first time, like to the airport or onto an airplane or inside to a restaurant, when I first get there, I'm like, oh, like, oh my gosh, do I want to do this? Or I'm here, can I breathe? And I think that we can, take those deep breaths and think things through. And we've got to develop our own coping skills and calm down, but support each other and say, we've got to acknowledge how we feel, not just about how we think and, goals and numerical goals that are set arbitrarily and so forth. It's not just about the work. It's always about how do we learn and work, together so that we take care of each other. And I think that's a huge lesson that's coming out of the pandemic, is that with 25% of women leaving the workforce, people are taking a new look at what they value. Many people have gone back to families and said, oh my gosh, I was missing so much. I need to pivot my own personal values. I need to pivot my personal life because I was missing out so much with my children, with a healthy relationship with my partner, I was spending 2 hours in the car every day commuting. This is not value add. And people are saying they don't want to go back to work 5 days a week. The hybrid model, I think, is going to emerge, as well as, we've got so many pivots, like the virtual learning, not 100%, different ages, it affects different people different ways, but telemedicine and so forth. These are things that were coming, but the pandemic accelerated them coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like I said, like some of these things, some people were forced into this change. They had to either get a job, they had to start a new business, or whatever the case may be. But then again, this was an opportunity where people were in control to make that decision. So, which was great. So I love what you share there on that and why this is so important. What would be some other things that you could add that you feel leaders, you talked about what leaders should stop doing, but what are some other things that they either should stop or should be doing more of, or better, or incorporating to, be able to adapt to industry situations, work situations, changes in their personnel, or anything personal overall to themselves?
Right. Another thing that is a big stop is that organizations need to take the focus off of arbitrary numerical goals, profits, the bottom line. And the reason is because when they focus on numbers and arbitrary numbers, people will work to get those numbers and destroy the team or the company in the process.
Yes.
So
seeing that.
Yes. And I've worked with so many leadership teams that when I go in, they say, oh, we have a management team meeting once a month or once a quarter. And I ask, what do you discuss at that? And the whole day or two is spent focusing on budgets, forecasts, numbers, the bottom line. And so when I begin to work with them, I guide them to focus on learning, and they learn totally different things. They might have been having the same problems for 5 or 10 or 15 years. And within 2 days, they see solutions, they see possibilities, they see how they can transform their thinking. And part of it is I ask them to focus on, or I teach them new concepts and tools to help them see systems, processes, interrelationships, the psychology that's working or not working between them, theory of variation, how to make better decisions. But basically we go through, for example, 2 days, and I say, oh, the numbers that you want to talk about, you get 30 minutes at the end of day 2. And month after month after month, we might shift to having 2-day management team meetings, but we talk about the numbers at the end of day 2, if there's time, because that is not the focus. If they create great systems and processes and relationships and a culture, then the natural outcome will be great numbers. I had a client that was a $30 million organization, and they wanted to go to 35 or 40 million. And I said to the owner, okay, you've told me don't tell anyone else that number. And he didn't, and we began working, and the organization went from 30 million to 300 million. Now, if we had gotten to close to 40 million, psychologically, the team would have slowed down, because it's like, oh, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. And then they hit the 40 million and they basically stopped. But I didn't know how far they could go. So it's like the sky is the limit.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. This is some great stuff. You've illustrated some great points here. And everyone, again, taking notes, make sure this is some great stuff. You go back and listen to this segment, or actually the entire show. It's in entirety. This is so important. We're going to be going to break here shortly, but we're going to have more to come in the last segment with Marcia. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email to chris@christophersalem.com. We will make sure that Marcia receives your questions. So if you would like something to be answered, feel free to send that to us. We'll make sure that she gets it, to reach out to you direct. Again, that's chris@christophersalem.com. Or again, you can leave a note at the Voice America Influencers channel with Sustainable Success. Either way, we'll make sure that we do get back to you. We got to go to break, everyone, but we'll be right back. And we got more to come with, again, pivotal leadership. Again, pivot to transform a bold future. We'll be right back.
All right, great job. All clear.
All right, beautiful. All right, so we'll go into the last segment. So we're going to go 16 minutes. What time is it now? Yeah, so it'll take us right pretty much. Well, if we start, like in 30 seconds, it'll take us right to the top of the hour. So we will end on time. So that way you can, I know if you got things to do, you can take care of it. The third segment, is there any particular area you want me to go for you, or for you to go? You want me to ask you a question to pivot that way?
It might be, what the question I often get is, where do we begin?
Yeah, where?
Where do we begin? So we finally figured out that we're in trouble, or we're in a crisis, or we see the future coming and it's looking very competitive. What do we do?
Okay, good. What I'll do is I will do that, and we're going to go 16 minutes. So the last 2 minutes so when we go to about 14 minutes, I like to have the last 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes be where people can reach out to you, find you, what you're up to, if there's something else you want to share with them, something like a giveaway. You have that time to do it, and it gives me 30 seconds to close it out.
Okay.
And we should be good. All right. I think we're ready to go.
Okay.
All right, I'll catch you here. Segment 3, starting in 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back to Sustainable Success. We are here with Marcia Daszko talking about pivot to transform a bold future. This is all about pivotal leadership. Again, doesn't matter if you are a solopreneur, you are a business owner, or you are running an organization as a leader in that particular area. So this is really important stuff, especially with all the uncertainty that we've been going through. And, Marcia has shared a wealth of knowledge here with us today. And we hope that you, if you have any questions, that you reach out. We'll make sure that she addresses that for you. So, Marcia, we talked a lot about pivotal leadership, talking about some of the things you should do, you shouldn't do, some of the things that how the people that take action, what it can do for them, some that don't take the action right away, what are the results? Where do leaders begin when it comes to pivotal leadership?
Well, first I would share hope is not a strategy. So great leaders anticipate. I actually learned that from one of my first clients who owned a chain of car dealerships in Hawaii. And he shared that one day, and he would, the focus was, what do we anticipate? And then I worked with a division of Dow Chemical, and that division manager also was thinking forward and anticipating that the competition, the global competition, was going to get very severe very fast. And when we were working with his team of about 40 executives, we were there for a 4-day workshop, and we were just into the few hours into the first day. And my colleague said to the division manager, I don't think they're getting it. And they were going back and forth, and the division manager said, oh yes, they get it. They get it. No, they don't have a sense of urgency. So after the break, the division manager went to the front of the room and said, how many of you think that we're in a crisis situation? And 4 hands went up. And he was shocked, because he thought that all 40 believed, like he did, that they were in a crisis and they needed to prepare for the future coming at them. And so he gave a short 5 to 10 minute visionary speech, and they had high respect for him. And then the shift in that commitment to learning over the next 3.5 days was off the chart. They really tried to understand, it's basically like, how do we come out of a crisis? So where do leaders begin? That's the number one thing they need to do. They need to ask that question. Where do we begin? Where is our sense of urgency? What do we anticipate? Where is the crisis that could hit us unexpectedly? Some people, believe it or not, had a pandemic plan.
Yeah.
They went to their file drawer, took it out, and here it was. They just had to adapt. Other people were blindsided for weeks and months and still resisted. You can't resist reality. It's right there. But so what people who want to continually transform, who want to survive, who want to be stable and sustainable over time, they are very, very committed to continual education, continually developing their organization, themselves, their community. So they're always looking at, how do we improve and innovate and give back? And so it's a huge commitment to learning. Like my mentor, Dr. Deming, shared the system of profound knowledge. And so I deeply studied that, was mentored by several people besides Dr. Deming. And so systems thinking, statistical thinking, knowledge of variation, theory of psychology, theory of knowledge, and I added theory of communication diffusion. So those interdependent parts of that system is what great leaders need to study and learn how to apply. That's why I always when I'm helping an organization, I go in, I learn about it, I talk to as many people as possible, and then based on where they are, I create a leadership education session. It might be 2 or 3 days where they go through and they learn this foundation of knowledge that they need to learn in their vocabulary, in their thinking, in how they work with each other, how they make decisions, and so forth. And then it is a transition to how do we apply these new concepts and tools to the organization. And then once the organization is learning and applying, then I tell the leaders, now get out of the way of your people, because they will take you where you've never been before.
Yeah.
And that's the definition of transformation. It's mindset shift first, and then the application, the implementation of all these.
That's a great, and would you say that that's a process, so it takes time. Now, people are always like, oh, how long is it going to take? Well, I guess it's going to vary based upon, a person, an organization.
It depends on them. It depends on their commitment to study, learning, and application. I've had some, it's rare, but I've had some organizations transform in 6 months. And it's a never ending, but they got the fundamentals, and then we're applying. And I've had other organizations that would take several years. And it also depended on how large they were, how complex they were, how many challenges they were facing. And
Wow, you shared some really valuable things today here. This is, I love it. I could listen to anything on leadership, especially someone who has a lot of knowledge in it, any day. So I'm getting so much out of it. I even jot down some notes to myself and as the host.
Good.
So
and
we have to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. I always give homework, and I always say, oh, we're going to have, read a book every month. And they laugh because they think I'm joking, but then they realize,
I agree.
Oh my gosh, she's not joking.
I read a chapter or two out of a book, well, minimum every morning. And then I do at night too, but it's part of my routine. It's part of my success routine, where I make my bed, meditate, journal, work out, eat breakfast, read a chapter or two out of a book, review my daily goals for the day, and then start my day. I do that every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So if I'm going to pivot, well, I owe it to my Success Foundation, because it keeps my mind sharp, clear, or clarity, with focus to be decisive, then decisive to take risks, and take action. That's it. So
I love it.
I owe it to that foundation.
Process, and it works.
Yeah. Took a long time, but I got it. I've been doing it a while, but it wasn't like that always, believe me. So I learned but you talked a lot about the consistency today, and being interdependent and process and all these different things, because these are so important. What are, again, any other things you could share that in the beginning process, is there anything personal that you think that, leaders would need to know, something other than just in what they're doing in their businesses, but something even on a personal level, anything else that you think they could add insight for that?
It's interesting, because oftentimes when I'm working with organizations and I maybe spend a week, and the people are learning new concepts and new tools and so forth, they get to be like sponges, because then every time I go there, I get these great stories about how they are taking what I'm teaching them, and they're going out to the school or the church or their community, and they're taking what I'm teaching and sharing it. It makes me so excited, because it's going beyond just a company or a team, and they're going out to make a difference in the world. I teach MBA classes sometimes, not all the time because it depends on my travel schedule, but I love that. And the first thing I do is I tell the students to put the laptops away because we're really going to do deep learning. And I do that experientially through exercises. And secondly, I tell them, if you do these things, everyone gets an A. And it takes them a little bit of time to believe me because they think she's just teasing, that we can't all get an A. Well, I asked them, well, what are we going to focus on if we're not focusing on the grade? And I remember one MBA student shyly said, learning? And I said, yes, wouldn't that be transformational? That we come together and we learn together and we talk about how we can apply these concepts and these theories outside of this classroom. And so it can go back to family, to a sports team, maybe they're a coach. It can go to the PTA at school. So all of these concepts apply to life.
Yeah, they do. I love what you mentioned there, because as leaders, this isn't like, hey, we turn this switch on at work and then we go back to something else. It's got to become consistent. It's got to be part of our day-to-day life. It's like how you lead in public is at the same as how you lead at home. Are those behaviors consistent? Is your communication consistent? Your action that you take, how you follow through, the values that you operate from at home and in the workplace. Are they the same? Or are they different? So, because if they are, then something's off here. So no, I love when you mentioned that they have to be uniform and something that you're doing, eventually automatically over a period of time, once you're able to get that to the automatic stage there. So I think that's great. I love it. Wow. You've shared such a wealth of information here today. It is just, I took notes. I hope everyone here that's listening has taken notes and go back and listen to this show in its entirety. But we only got a few minutes left, and I want to leave time for Marcia to share some, where you can get in touch with her. So Marcia, anything you would like to share, how they can get in contact with you, anything you like to provide, you are more than welcome to do so.
Okay. I always welcome questions, stories, challenges. So if people are struggling with something, don't struggle by yourself. Pick up the phone, send an email, text something. I'm all over, Google. They can put in my name. They can look up my book, Pivot, Disrupt, Transform, on Amazon, because it comes auditory, Kindle, and hard copy. So just by, finding the correct spelling of my name, which is a big challenge, then they can find me on Google. My website is mdaszko.com. And there are many, many resources on my website. There are white papers and podcasts, blogs, and newsletters. And I write a weekly column for the Silicon Valley Business Journal. It's called Ask Marcia. It's ask me any leadership questions, and I'll try to, give you some guidance or provide resources. Or sometimes they have questions and I answer the question with questions so that they think it through. So I encourage people to reach out to me or go to my website and go through the resources. There's so much there, and I really welcome the interactions. And also I love to go out to organizations, corporations, associations, and speak about leadership transformation and how to pivot.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Everybody listening, please reach out to Marcia. Get her book as well. There's a lot of great ideas. So if you work for a corporation, you are running your own company, this is someone you need to get in contact with right away. And again, we fully support Marcia and everything that she does here. So if you have questions, again, feel free to either reach out to Marcia directly. If we send them to us, we will make sure she also gets them. Marcia, thank you so much for being here with us today. We are so honored to have you. And I keep saying guests, listeners, thank you. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have this show. So we are committed each and every week, bringing in people like Marcia who share their insights and wisdom and experience to help you scale your business and personal lives to the next level. Leadership is so important. And we hope everyone has a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. And we're going to see you on the next show at the beginning of June. We'll have another great guest sharing their words of wisdom. So until then, we'll see you next Thursday. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Awesome job today. All clear.
All right. Woo. It's all set. You're good. So one of the things what I'm going to do, Marcia, I got all your stuff. We got all your stuff. So we'll be preparing probably tomorrow. We'll have it. We'll probably have it to you over the weekend.
Okay.
We'll have the promo, the banner, and then the link to promote the show ahead of time for you. And
Awesome.
then after the show, once the show actually runs on Thursday, you can promote it after, because now it'll be, available on demand. And people then can listen to it anytime, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
Wow.
All the different areas where you can download a podcast. We're there. So
how many listeners do you have? Do you know?
it varies. We have thousands of listeners. So thousands we have quite a few. And so if we get anybody that comes in, that with an email, we'll make sure that we send it to you. And I'll actually personally send it to you. So
It's interesting because I offer that and I ask people to write and stuff, and very few people do. I mean, one guy did. I remember about a year ago, he was struggling. He had a little business. He said to his wife one day, I don't know how we'll make the mortgage payment. That was just, 2 months into the pandemic. And he called me and he told me that. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And in 30 minutes, we had a plan for him to start a new business.
that's awesome.
And it was in a matter of weeks that he had income coming in the door.
No, I love it. I love hearing that stuff.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is they got to go to the next show because they're doing another pre-records. I'm going to send this to you, but I want to reach out to you. We should set up another time to chat like we did a while back when we had that talk last year, because I remember when we scheduled this show, you're like, oh my God, it's way out. And I said, yeah, it's,
it's better to catch me.
Oh yeah. We're booked. We're already booked out till May next year already. I mean, that's how.
Oh my gosh. Oh, by the way, I was going to ask you, do you want any referrals?
Yeah. If you want to send any referrals, that'd be fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my best friends who was helping me this morning with the Yeti, she's a retired colonel, Army colonel, and she talks about mentally tough women. I'm always saying to her.
Oh, I love that. I do a whole thing on increasing mental toughness. So, all right, he's got to jump to the next recording. Okay. He's telling me. What we'll do is I'll reach out to you, and we'll definitely do that, and we'll do it. I'll send you when I send you the link. I'll set up a thing where we'll put a calendar, and we'll set up a time to chat right after. We could do it right after Memorial Day weekend. That'll be perfect.
Perfect. Thank you. Have fun in New York. I miss it.
Yeah, absolutely.
As soon as I can.
You got it. Talk soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.